Talk. And today we have a very special guest, someone whose story has moved me to tears and definitely me to a lot of the really, really hard times in my life. I can certainly relate to her. And I hope it's just going to be as amazing for everyone listening to this, inspiring and encouraging as it is for me. So here we have Miss Michele, who is also known as Mama Bear. So I don't want to talk much. I'm going to hand it right over to her. So, Michele, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and where Mama Bear comes from?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're so
Um,
welcome.
so, Mama Bear came about because I've been in a motorcycle ministry and it's a road name. So, most bikers have a different name. So, may not look like much of a biker, but that's where it comes from. And generally speaking, you earn your nickname. I've always been one to try to look after everyone else and help everyone else. And if I couldn't help them, I always wanted to find resources to try to help them out. And so that's how I got my name by and large. I'm a mom. I've been blessed to bring in five amazing children into this world, three boys and twin daughters. My eldest son is 25 now and married, and my babies that are still at home are twin 13-year-old daughters. So definitely have done the whole gambit of motherhood, and we're still in it. And now we're at the teenage years, which has its moments. Um, my twin daughters that are home, one of them is actually high functioning autistic as well. So we definitely have a very broad spectrum in the house of needs and uh, accommodations that we do to support everyone in their own house, because her twin sister is actually in the Signet program and academically advanced. So I have one on each end of that scale. So life is good now, but it hasn't always been that way.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot that I've gone through that I like to help other people through. I am a survivor of multiple forms of trauma, to include rape, to include domestic violence, to include violence against me when I was a kid. Um, been there, done that. Domestic abuse in relationships. I have two failed marriages. Not really proud of it. That's where we're at, and I'm honestly better for not being with either of those. And the second one got to a point where I felt like I needed to get out with my kids. But here was a scenario. I am a stay-at-home mom who works for his company. My twin daughters were 18 months old at the time, and my eldest son was 13. So I had no physical cash flow of my own. I had no money saved. I have family, but none of them were extremely close. And I just felt trapped. I didn't know what to do. So lots of prayers. For me, that's what gets me through a lot of my things in life. And I started making phone calls, and the scariest phone call I ever made was to social services. And I tried to call anonymously. That didn't work so well, but just asked what resources there were in my area if someone needed to get out. And of course, they already knew that was me. And I was scared to call them, not that they would harm me, but if I tell somebody there's a problem, are they going to come investigate me? Are they going to come take my kids from me? Like, what can of worms am I opening? And I made sure I didn't make that call until I knew that I was ready. That's huge, right? Because we feel like we're ready, and you are fed up and you're angry and maybe using all kinds of language. And you're like, I'm done, I'm getting out of here. But in your heart of hearts, you're not ready yet. You're not getting there yet. You have to hit that breaking point. And it's different for everyone what that looks like. But when you do, you'll move mountains to make it happen. So I found out about a shelter for women who have in abusive situations. And thankfully, the world had grown to a place where mental abuse, which was a lot of that marriage, was actually recognized as abuse, because years ago it wouldn't have been. So what if your husband's mean to you? So what if he yells at you, or is controlling or anything like that? They wouldn't have cared. But thankfully, we were at a stage in our world where that was being recognized and gave me that outlet. So I within 24 hours of finding out about it, I had a friend of mine who was able to offer me a storage unit, and legitimately 24 hours packed up all of my kids' stuff, got just a little bit of my own. My husband had to do a job that day, and I knew he'd be gone from the house all day. Had my other friend's mom who was going to keep an eye on the girls for me, and there was two of us who loaded a U-Haul, put it in a storage building. I ran back and got my girls, and probably did a little bit more over the speed limit than I should have, but safely, to get us to the emergency room because we had to go to the ER hospital room to get admitted because you couldn't know where this place was to keep people who are there or other people that need to use it safe. So that was the only way to get admitted. And all of that felt super scary. The place is beautiful. It is wonderful. And I am so indebted to them, so thankful to them for being available and having that resource. Once we got in, bunch of paperwork. I was only there 3 weeks. And I've been told that they tell my story without telling my name to this day because they've never had a woman come in with 3 children at the time, as the ones I had with me, and come in and get out so quickly. And just a whole lot of blessings. I found a job at Subway, and they helped me find daycare, and that lasted about 2 weeks, and then I got an office job. It was $23,000 a year, but I had benefits. And then I was able to find a place to live that wasn't in the best neighborhood. It's a college area of the town, and there was all kinds of things going on in the parking lot all the time. It was definitely unnerving a little bit for me, but I did it. It's just putting that one foot in front of the other and being able to go into this place and lock the door behind me and having my kids with me and not feeling like I was in danger, feeling safe again. And that is priceless. And I don't advocate to get a divorce. Okay. Marriage takes work. But if you're in no kidding a situation that you can't endure, it's physically abusive, it's mentally abusive, you got to do what you got to do because your children are watching you. My story is not really about me. It's about them because I'm the worst for doing something for myself. And that was the old me. But if it was for my children, then it was worth doing. And they're watching me. My breaking point before I left was I was standing in my daughter's room and they were both laying in their crib. And I had like a little walkway between the cribs, and I'm standing between the cribs and I'm looking at them sleeping. And they're 18 months old. And this thought came through my head, just as if someone else was in the room with me talking to me and said, they're going to grow up and they're going to find someone to treat them exactly the way they see you being treated. And I bawled. And I don't know where that came from. I don't know how that got through to me, but that broke me in so many ways. And there's no way I would be, very upset and very angry if somebody treated my daughters the way that I've been treated. So, I mean, that's kind of like the big portion of my second round as a single mom. I actually been a single mom most of my life. I was a single mom with my first son when I was 17 years old and 24 days. And I did that for 3 years. So being a single mom, it's hard. It's scary. I know married women who have told me they feel like a single mom, and we talk, and you know what? They kind of are because there's some absent husbands as well, unfortunately, where that she's still doing it all. He helps bring in another income, which is helpful most of the time speaking. but we need that person. We need that person there to help, talk to. I mean, at the end of the day, no matter how bad the situation was, I was halfway happy when he would come home just because it was an adult to talk to. It
Right.
wasn't a kid. It's crazy what we need or what we miss, I didn't miss
Mhm.
it when we moved out on our own, though, because there was just that peace and just that tranquility. So I have this job. I've got benefits. I'm making $23,000 a year. Now, I've never been on food stamps or gotten any services up to that point because I never qualified. Even at 17, it wasn't available to me. Well, now I'm in a situation where they're like, yeah, you can get services. And I'm like, awesome, it'll help us through. And everything was great until I went to the office for my appointment.
Mhm.
I considered myself a pretty humble person. I don't
Mhm.
think I'm very prideful. You would be amazed at how much pride you find out you have when you go into that office. It's even more humbling than I can tell you. Um, Grateful, definitely a blessing, but very humbling.
Mhm.
So I was able to get help with my child care so that I could work this new job I got. Um, I got food stamps. I got WIC. Wasn't much. Wasn't much at all. Worked really hard trying to figure out how to do everything. And I still remember like it was yesterday when I would take the little bit of money, and I'm talking less than $100 of food stamps, and I had 3 kids, and $20 for my paycheck, and trying to go and make it last a week. And I would feed the girls and I would feed my son, and I didn't always eat dinner with them. And I just be like, it's been a long day. I'm not quite hungry yet. I'm going to eat later. I'm going to get everyone settled first. I thought I was slick until about 2 years ago. My oldest son was talking to my daughters, and he brought up out of the blue that he remembers when I didn't eat dinner with them because I wasn't eating.
Mhm.
Now, if there was leftovers, I would eat the leftovers, but I had a 13-year-old son and twin daughters, so they eat. I always made sure that they ate, and if there was something left over, I'd eat, and if not, I just didn't. It's kind of what we do.
Mhm.
Um, Through all of that, within 9 months of moving into our place and finally getting settled, we found out the owner was going to sell it. So we had to get another place. So I was able to find a place in a townhouse in another town, but instead of being 10 minutes from work, now I'm 45 minutes from work. But you got to go where you can afford. And it was a nice neighborhood at least. So I get there and doing, got us settled again. And then my cousin ended up calling me, and she was letting me know that her job was hiring. And that's, I was in Waynesboro at the time, and she's living in Northern Virginia. It's, 2.5 hours away. And I was like, I don't want to move up there. The traffic is horrible. And yes, the traffic is still horrible. And I said, I'm not qualified. I tried to do college, but I only had 21 college credits because I couldn't handle the baby and full-time job and the college. I tried, I burned out, and it didn't work. And I was like, there's just no way. There's too many college grads up there. It's not going to work. And she encouraged me to apply. And so I applied, and we joked about it. The funny thing is, we were talking as if I had already gotten the job.
Mhm.
And sure enough, I got a call for an interview, and it was supposed to be 2 months. And instead, it ended up being they wanted me to start in 2 weeks. Well, I still had a lease in Waynesboro for another 2 months that I couldn't afford to get out of. Um, so talked to my dad and my stepmom. God bless them. They let my daughters and I move in with them for 2 months. And I was like, I just need 2 months. And she's like, stay as long as you need to. And I was like, nope, just need 2 months. That's it. Because once you've lived on your own, I mean, no matter how great they are, It is hard to go back and live with family. We do what we have to do, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
So I packed up my stuff. Here I am again, right? Little to no notice, packing a suitcase and moving up to, my parents and started my new job. And let me tell you what a miracle this is. So we're making $23,000 a year. And overnight, I worked till that Friday. I started my new job that Monday. And overnight, I went from $23,000 a year to $45,000 a year.
Wow. What did that feel like for you?
Unreal. Unreal. Because in our poverty, back those first 9 months especially,
Mm-hmm.
I remember how much I took for granted. We have a tradition in my household, and I don't think it's ever going to go anywhere. Every other Friday is pizza night, and that's because as life started slowly getting better, and it felt very slow, I found a way to put $20 aside every 2 weeks because their dad would have them those other Fridays. So every 2 weeks, that was my Friday, we had pizza, and it was a really big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I remind my daughters now, because they don't remember back that young, what a big deal this was for us. I mean, it was huge. Who knew delivery could be such an exciting thing? But being able to do something like a normal family was amazing. Our first Christmas, I couldn't afford to buy them anything for Christmas. And I was so blessed that we had an organization who had contacted the shelter, who reached out to me so that they had a couple of things each to open for Christmas morning. You're working so hard. You are trying to put one foot in front of the other. You have a job. You're doing everything you can. You're protecting your family. You're trying to raise them. And when you're in that moment, it does not seem like you can get a break. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's none. There's a whole lot of darkness and a whole lot of days you don't want to get out of bed. Let's be real about it. There's a whole lot of what ifs.
Yeah.
And nobody really to show you how to get from A to B. There just isn't. So go ahead.
Did you have anyone that understood your situation?
Not
Helping?
fully.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my family is great, but none of them have gone through this.
Right.
At that time, no one had to flee with their children.
Mm-hmm.
No one had been, some of them had struggled with finances when they were younger and married, but they had each other. And most of the time, both of them worked. So they could understand some of the poverty part. You can't fully understand what someone else is going through until you're in their shoes.
Right. And
Right. Because you're beaten down. Yeah. I couldn't have sat here and talked to you right now about this.
Mm-hmm.
I was unworthy. Why would I share my opinion? No one wants to hear it. Who cares about my story? So what? Doesn't matter. I don't matter. I was insignificant. I wasn't worthy of anything. And all of those are lies.
Yep.
We are created for so much more. And yeah, there are bad things that happen. But if I hadn't gone through all of that, I couldn't have talked to you or other people that I've talked to. I couldn't be a hand to reach out and go, look, there are things we can do. Or, you know what? I may not be able to physically help you, but I can talk to you. And if nothing else, I need you to know there's light at the end of the tunnel, although you can't see it, you can't feel it. And if you just don't give up, you're going to get there. Because I'm here. Mm-hmm. Throw life raft out and try to do what I can. I can help you find resources if you need them. Like I do all of those things for people I've met, perfect strangers I've met. Because I'm the person that before all of this 2020 shenanigan things was going on, I could be standing in a grocery store line and I would just smile and say hi to be nice. And within 3 minutes, I knew their life story. I didn't ask one question. I just said hi.
Because people are drawn to you because you know.
I always say it this way, that when I meet someone, I can 90% of the time tell whether or not they've been through something. Now, I can't physically look at them and see scars, but I always say they have scars that look a lot like mine.
Right, right.
And no matter what that brave face they put on or how they try to hide it,
Hmm.
I can just sense it. There is something super familiar. And that's always been my saying is you have scars that look a whole lot like mine.
Yeah.
And normally then they open up to me even more if I have that chance. A lot of times I don't even tell them, but I listen to them and I pay attention to what they say and I try to be an ear for them in case they do feel that they need someone to open up to.
Yeah, because everyone needs that. I mean, that's why people pay for coaches and psychiatrists and counselors. People just need someone to talk to objectively who loves them and cares about them and sees them as a person. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, do you think, going along with that, do you think that you would have as much passion or be able to connect with people in that way if you hadn't gone through the things that you did?
I wouldn't know what it is,
Yeah.
right? There's things we hear about that are atrocities, and
Hmm.
you could be horrified by them. And you can have like a very loving, generous heart and be like, that is awful. And, I want to go help everyone. For me, I was close to homeless, but I didn't get there because I got to the shelter. So,
Hmm.
can I have compassion for those who are homeless? And it is kind of a passion of mine to try to help them. Yes. But can I tell you what it feels like not to have a roof over my head?
Hmm.
Thank God, no, I can't.
Yeah.
I have a friend who can tell me what it was like because
Hmm.
they got to have an experience in their younger life. And we get along really well, right? Because the trauma is the same. The fear, the scares, the unknown, all of that's the same. And that's where we have common ground to relate.
Hmm.
She could be really passionate about that, where I
Yeah.
can be really passionate for survivors and for
Right.
single moms who are just trying to make a way. You don't have to go through trauma for me to help you. You don't have to have gone through ugly. But the truth is, most of us have.
Yeah.
Um, finances is another big thing that I try to help people with, only because when you're in that situation, you don't have cash flow. Most places want to run a credit check before they rent to you,
Right.
before you get a cell phone, unless you do a prepaid. But even some of the prepaids are starting to want to do credit checks and stuff. I mean, it's just a really big part. And I had two divorces. My credit was done. I had family member use my credit before I turned 18 and after. So the things before 18 I can get taken off because I could send them proof of my birth date and they knew
Mm.
that that couldn't be my bill. But anything that was after 18 had to be handled through a court if I wanted to. And since it was a family member,
Mm.
while I could have, I chose not to. I
Right.
chose it wasn't worth that, right?
Hmm.
Um, so you move on.
Right.
And then living that lifestyle of not having a whole lot of money, it is scary when you get the notice that you've got to move. What? Sometimes you get a month, 2 months notice if you're lucky. It's very rare in my experience to get several months notice. 2 months was like the max, and that was generous to
Mm.
find out that the lease wasn't going to be renewed or they were going to up the rent to a portion that I couldn't afford. And this always having to bounce around. I mean, it terrified me every time it came up because here I got to uproot my kids again.
Right.
Here I got to find a safe place. I got to make sure I can get to work. And it's that constant stress, even when I would get a new lease signed for a year, I'd be like, yay.
Hmm.
And in the back of my mind, I'm going, God, I hope they renew in a year. Or I hope that I know where we're going to be in a year because it's such a guessing game. So for me, wanting to buy a home was really important to me. And so I moved up north, and I had gotten this better paying job, but I'm still trying to pay off debts, and I'm trying to, dig out of a hole.
Hmm.
And it's about a month after I was there, my parents live in the townhouse, and the neighbor next door had come over to say, hey, they were going to have some work done at the unit next door that tenants had just moved out of. But it's a really nice neighborhood. Like, I can't afford the rent there. But for fun, I asked him what he was going to do with it. And his wife owned it. And he was like, well, we're going to rent it out. I said, how much are you going to rent it out for? And they're putting new carpet in, new windows, all the things. He was like, well, here's the property manager's number. You go ahead and give him a call. So I took the number. I called them. And in the back of my mind going, there's, right? Because townhouses there were easy $1,500–$1,600 a month then. Now they're like $1,800–$1,900 a month. So making my new wage, I was actually bringing home $1,348 a month. I mean, $1,348 every 2 weeks. Okay, that was amazing from where I'd been.
Yeah, that's still
But when
not
you
a lot.
start when you start factoring in insurance and utilities and food and just living expenses and daycare,
Hmm.
because when I made that jump, guess what I did lose? I lost all services.
Right, right. Hmm.
So now it's 100% just me.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll figure this out. So the property manager office called me back and said the owners want $1,450 a month. That was generous,
Yeah.
but my heart dropped.
Hmm.
And I said, I appreciate the call back, but there's no way I can afford that. And she was like, no. And I was like, no. She goes, okay, well, for fun, how much could you pay a month? And I said, well, I'm trying to get my, debt under control and everything else. The most I know I could pay, because I needed to know that I could pay this. Like, I didn't want to possibly be late. Like, I knew that I knew that I knew I could do it, although it would be tight, would be $1,300 a month,
Hmm.
which left me $48 out of one paycheck. Not to mention daycare, utilities, food,
Yeah.
everything else.
Right.
So she called me back within 2 days and said that the owners accepted $1,300 a month. And they gave me a 2-year lease at $1,300 a month. And I bawled.
Hmm.
So now we're moving into the townhouse next door to my dad and my stepmom, which is amazing. I have family support for the first time in years. I had family support again. For years I lived 2+ hours away from any of my family. So having that support again and not being all alone and being able to say, hey, can you grab the kids from school? I'm running late from work. I mean, silly, stupid things. That was just a whole blessing all in itself. So
Those
we
things
move
are
in.
huge.
They are. I mean, we take them for granted. But when I was out in Waynesboro with a 13-year-old son,
Mhm.
he's a great kid, love him to death. He's still a 13-year-old son.
Right.
And then, toddler baby girls,
Hmm.
that's a lot. It's a lot to juggle. It's a lot to have. He ended up having to be a latchkey kid because 13, you're phased out of most babysitting daycare programs. And so he would be home for like an hour and a half before I got home almost every day,
Yeah.
and I hated it. I hated not being able to be there. Um, but I wasn't able to be there at those times because I still had to work. And then I got home and then I made dinner, got the girls and made dinner, and all the evening was done.
Yeah.
But I remember how happy we were. And life is good now. But every now and then when I get caught up in my day-to-day here and I get caught up in the stress and I just get caught up with having now two teenage girls, I take a minute, reflect back that although it was crazy stressful, somehow there was this peace in our poverty.
Yes.
Like
Yeah. Hmm.
we didn't have as many things to take care of. Like things were really stressful, but you only have like just many things.
Right.
It was just simpler.
And it's also like the value of what you do have is so much more. So I mean, that's something that I lost. The same thing. Uh, when it was just me and my son, we were sitting there and I couldn't afford to just go out and get him. He would get like $20 Christmas or birthday money sent in. I would go to the thrift store and buy him toys
Yep.
and just enjoying that. We would dance in the kitchen to keep myself from crying, things like that. And it was just those little precious moments that get lost when you actually do get your life together, right? It's such a strange phenomenon to go back and think, wow, there were some things that were better back then.
Yeah. And once I realized that a few years ago, because I got in such a struggle, like just focus to climb the career ladder, right?
Yeah.
45 was great, but I want more, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to struggle anymore and I don't want to struggle anymore. And I climbed a ladder. I jumped from that company. I work for the government now. Like I built my career up to be more comfortable. But one of my biggest finds was going to Goodwill with my kids
Hmm.
during Christmas time and finding this nativity set.
Mm.
And it's a wooden barn and it's porcelain figurines. I still have it. It was like $15,
Hmm.
which I almost didn't get it because that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
But the kids saw it and really wanted it. And we had little to no Christmas decorations yet.
Hmm.
And we got it. And I put it up every year. And that's like a physical item to remind me to
Yeah.
stop getting so wrapped up in, just the consumerism. And I try to teach my children that. And they get upset some years. They want to go buy me something. And I'm like, there were years that wouldn't have been possible if you'd been old enough to remember,
Yeah.
make me something.
Right. Right.
So they will. Now, if they can get a family member to take them out or my other half to take them out, then they absolutely do that
Hmm.
because they like that notion. But I try to teach them that, make me something. You don't have to go to the store and spend money, or they
Yeah.
want to spend their birthday money or Christmas money on me. I'm like, you have no idea how precious that money is, sweetheart. No, save it. Hold on to it and save it. Um, but
So,
no, life got
go
a
ahead.
lot better with those 2 years, being able to have roots finally,
Yeah.
and then wanting to not have to worry about the rental thing again. I actually started pursuing getting my finances more in order and raised my credit score 100 points in 4 months. That was enough to get me approved for a mortgage.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd be able to get a mortgage or approved for one or approved for anything. Like my credit score was like 500.
Hmm.
The minimum to get even a FHA loan is 600. And I was told I had gotten it 2 points above the minimum and don't touch my credit. But within 4 months,
Yeah.
those just blessings.
Yeah.
And so I called the property manager office and I said, hey, so the owners mentioned once upon a time they might want to sell their townhouse at some point. Um, I've been approved for a mortgage. I'm going to start looking around, but I wanted to see if they'd be interested.
Hmm.
From that phone call, within 6 weeks, I signed for my mortgage and I was able to buy my first home.
And what was
You
that
would,
like for you? That going from
unreal,
uninsured to,
unreal. And
yeah.
it still took me like another year to really sink in my head that I owned it
Yeah.
because I had rented for so long, but then rented there for 2 years. But I joked with people. I said, I'm the only person I know that can buy a home and actually just unpack. I didn't have to pack anything. I got to actually unpack more.
Right.
Because 2 years I still had boxes sitting in a corner somewhere. I mean, that's just who I am.
So, I mean, there's so much in there that we could talk about, but I really want to make it like, hit on some of the highlights. So, I mean, you've been through so much, but if you could go back and say, what was the biggest thing you've had to overcome? Like, was it back then, or was it when you got to that place of stability and then got to unpack your emotional and mental stuff?
Getting over the finance hurdles, when you're in that significance of poverty
Yeah.
is hard.
Mhm.
But I didn't deal with me until I got stable. Like I survived.
Mhm.
I wasn't I wasn't living, like I would have moments where the kids and I would have fun in the house together, but I wasn't living a life. I wasn't really enjoying much of it. I was thankful for the blessings, but I was just pushing through, right? What can I get done next, kind of just doing a checklist and checking everything off. And it honestly wasn't until a few years ago that I finally was like, stop.
Mhm.
You're still carrying around all the words from everyone who
Yeah.
has ever said anything against you in your life. You still don't hold yourself in any regard. I gave myself no credit for what I've been through.
Mm. Yeah.
Now, nobody's going to hand me golden stars and cookies, or I don't need any of that. But I never even said, wow, you did it.
Yes.
With all that baggage you've got on you, all those people that said, I mean, a very loving, beautiful person who's no longer with us anymore out of my family that loved and respected, still love very much, looked at me when I found out I was pregnant with my eldest son and told me I ruined my life.
Mhm.
They were old school. I
Yeah.
really don't think they meant harm,
Mhm.
but I was told I ruined my life because I got pregnant so young. And I held on to that for too many years. But it might have been
Mhm.
a great thing because I also tapped into that and I've kind of been on a mission to prove everyone wrong.
Yeah.
I was told I wouldn't be able to have a successful career because I didn't make it through college. Proving them wrong. I don't
Yeah.
say I've proved them completely wrong until I start hitting six figures. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting
Mhm.
damn close,
It's
right?
awesome.
Um,
Yeah.
and not that there's anything wrong with getting an education. If you can do that, go for it because it's obviously easier to get a better paying job. But I'm so tired of everyone putting someone in a box.
Yes.
Stop telling everyone they can't do this or their one mistake has ruined their whole life because I'm the queen of mistakes. I have made more than my fair share.
Mhm.
You can do whatever you want to do. You just got to stop echoing what they've said to you. Instead of
Yes.
hearing that soundtrack in your brain of, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy. No, I am worthy. I am worthy of
Yes.
everything good. I am worthy of everything beautiful. I am allowed to have dreams. I stopped dreaming for a long time and never realized it. And someone asked me randomly, what are some big dreams you have? And I said, what? What do you
Mhm.
mean big dreams? Like, I've reached it. Like when I got the townhouse and I had my kids stable and I had a good paying job, maybe not the
Right.
finances I want yet, but stable, I was I I, I just said I was done. And I believed I was
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
And then somebody's asking me about a dream. Well, I mean technically it's greedy of me to want any more, right?
Right. That's what it feels
Ha-
like.
haven't I
Mhm.
gotten the American dream? I had adversity. I struggled through adversity. I overcame challenges and obstacles. And where I said I wanted to be, I'm there. We're done, right?
Mm.
I'll just sit
Yep.
there for the rest of the time on this earth.
How did that
When you
feel though?
say it sounds crazy now,
Yeah.
but that point in time, that was as good as life was going to get. And I wasn't
Do
complaining.
when you like let go of those dreams because you felt like you have so much to be grateful for. How did that feel inside?
you're just Groundhog Day. Like seriously, you're stuck in a loop where
Yeah.
almost every day is kind of the same,
You just
right?
exist.
You get up, you go to work. I mean, you have family parties and you have time with your kids, but it's very rudimentary. You're going to get up Monday through Friday, you're going to go to work, you're going to come home, you're going to do dinner, you're going to take the kids to whatever activities they have, you're going to get them to bed. You're going to take 30 minutes to an hour maybe to try to unwind from the day. And then you're going to go to bed and you're going to wake up and do it again. And you're going to live for Fridays so that you can get 2 days of a weekend to have fun. That's what we say, right? Because that's
Right.
never what happened.
Nope.
So Saturday ended up being run errand day.
Yep.
And Sunday, we got healthier and started doing clean eating. So Sunday became meal prep day.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say we
Yeah.
didn't have any fun, didn't do anything, but I'm going to tell you, there wasn't a whole lot of downtime. And there were
Exactly.
days I just wanted to do nothing.
Yeah. So you went from surviving to existing. And now,
Yes.
would you say you're in actually living mode?
Yes. We
Or
finally
you're
got into
learning?
living mode.
Okay.
Um, and that's still developing, honestly, but it feels great because now I'm stepping into a purpose that is more than just me or just my job. I'm helping people, and I've always helped people, but I'm doing it in a different way where I'm actually able to make real impact. I've gone through ULA certification to be a ULA certified coach. And I
Yes.
learned so much about myself during that. It was amazing. Um, and I did it because I'm going to coach people anyway. So why
Yes.
not get some tools in my toolbox that can help me do that better and be more effective at it? And then I'm going
Right.
through it and I'm unlocking all of these things. And you look at 7 areas of your life and they get you to draw it out. And ideally, you want a round shape like a wheel.
Yeah.
And mine was not a wheel. I had
Right.
some really, really like almost completely broken off spokes in my wheel.
Yep.
And I didn't even realize it. And I was like, oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. I wasn't worried that maybe I didn't like rank off the charts on everything, or
Mm-hmm.
max out a 10 in all areas. That's not the important part. Important part is having enough balance to have a circle so your tire can roll down the road without it giving you whiplash going down the road.
So
Um,
your life gets a bit more streamlined, a little bit easier to manage, and you actually get to live rather than just managing it.
yeah,
And like you said,
it's
the
got to take
balance.
those moments.
Yes. So the more balanced you get, like what you said, you're now kind of living your purpose, which we all are created for a purpose. We all have a purpose and gifts and talents in us to be used, but so many don't. And so now, how would that have helped you when you were in those deep ruts in your life trying so hard?
It would have been nice just to have someone tell me that you're going to make it.
Yeah.
Someone to cancel out all of the emotional baggage and all
Yeah.
of the negativity that had been beaten into my head and my internal soundtrack, so to speak. It would
Hmm.
have been nice to have someone that was very uplifting. I'm very much a realist, and
Hmm.
you can't tell me everything is rainbows and butterflies because I can show you the mess around me that's not going to help me. But
Right.
tell me to start practicing standing in a mirror and saying, I love myself or I love you. You are worthy.
Yeah.
You can do this. You are enough. And I've heard people who, always, when not always, but a lot of people, when they're in those kind of situations, I've heard so many parents go, I'm not good enough for my kid.
Yeah.
They deserve better.
Yep.
And I've said it.
Mm-hmm. So have
No,
I.
they don't. No, they don't.
Yeah.
You were given those children for a reason, and you are going to be able to teach them maybe just the one thing that no one else is ever going to be able to teach them. So
Yes.
that child can go and live with whoever or be raised by whoever. But that was divinely done for you
Mm-hmm.
because you got something that kid needs, and that kid's going to end up using it. And it may seem silly or insignificant, but that's why. So you are perfect for them. You are worthy to be their parent. You are good enough. And if you make mistakes, that's fine. The only thing I tell everyone is if you fall down or you're in a rough situation and you make mistakes or just having a hard time, go ahead and cry, right? Go ahead and have a little bit of a breakdown, have a fit, whatever you got to do,
Mm-hmm.
but pick yourself up afterwards.
Yes.
You got little eyeballs that are watching everything you do, and you may think they're too young and they're not paying attention, but they're paying attention. You have got to pick yourself back up. And if you can't do it, then reach out to somebody who can, whether
Yeah.
it's a coach, whether it's a friend. Don't reach out to negative Nancy that you know at work, or that one friend who's always acting like Eeyore. That's not going to help you. You need to reach out to somebody who can speak life into you, who can breathe a little
Yeah.
bit of life back into you and just say, even if they can't understand where you are, because I never tell anybody, I understand what you're going through. I
Mm-hmm.
don't. I don't even pretend to. I can't unless I actually walk your shoes. But I can tell you a lot of things that you're going through. It feels a whole lot familiar to me. And I can probably understand a lot of the feelings you're having,
Right. Right.
even if I don't understand all the details of your situation. And to be honest, I don't always need all the details.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's so much shame and hurt based around some of those details that that
Yeah.
person keeps beating themselves up for. I
Mm.
did it. That verbalizing those will completely shut them down.
Yeah. And
Or
sometimes
the
those people just need the love. That's all.
yeah,
Yeah.
just the I'm here. I've been in situations. I understand, and I'm going to support you.
Right. So speaking of support and living your purpose, you're now taking everything you learned the hard way. You learned with grit and doing it for your kids, your family. Not, not even for yourself, just for your family. And because it's what you had to do. You're now flipping that around and using your real life experience. You've created an amazing course. So can you share a bit about that?
Absolutely. So when I was talking about the townhouse earlier, I indeed did raise my credit score over 100 points in 4 months,
Mm-hmm.
and I go I'm an internet junkie, right? So I always Google everything. I'm just very inquisitive. So I've looked at other things, and I've done a lot with my finances and getting that straight, because you can make the additional money, but until you start dealing with what you've got and
Yes.
getting everything in order and then giving
Mm-hmm.
everything a purpose and a place to be, you're
Yeah.
not going to get any traction. You could make $50,000 more a year and it'll be good. But if you don't give that money a name and a purpose and a task to do, and then go clean up whatever you've left over here on your journey,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be in the same situation where you feel like you're making $20,000, $30,000 again, even though you might be making 60,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I take people in my course step by step on how they can get their credit cleaned up. Now, I don't make any guarantees on how much your credit score is going to improve. That varies by what your details of your finances. But if
Right.
you do what I outline in the course, you will build good credit and you will start shifting that tide to get good credit being built. There's not a lot of fluff in my course, though. So I'm not someone that's going to make you watch a 20, 30-minute promo video and tell you why I'm so awesome or why this is going to change your life. No. I've got I've got 7 videos and they range from 3 to 8 minutes. And all of the steps you can do. There's no magic in it, but there's also that freedom that you don't have to pay a debt consolidation firm.
Mm-hmm.
There's no need. You don't need to call a credit repair company. You know how many of those are scams?
Yeah.
And then they get like hundreds of thousands of dollars from you. Everything I teach is free except for one step. And that one step is optional.
Hmm.
And that one step takes you through how you can use a secured credit card to build good credit. That's
Awesome.
it. Everything that you need to do, though, to repair your credit or get it in check and try to start moving that needle forward,
Hmm.
it's just your time.
Right. That's so awesome. I mean, looking back on my life too, I know I've told you this the last time we chatted, but everything you're doing now, everything you just said, I needed this 10 years ago. I needed this when I was in my pit, when I didn't have support, when I was a single mom living below the poverty line, looking in a cabinet, going, how in the world are we going to make this little bit stretch? And going to bed with myself hungry. My son was never hungry. I would eat the scraps off of his plate and praying and crying and just going, how in the world? So to have a financial course like that, to just give me the bare bones, no fluff stuff, how do I get my life in track? And also have someone like you come back and speak life over me and into my life and say, you do this. You're not what's happened to you. You're not your situation. You're not your bank statement. You're valuable. And let's clean up, get yourself and do something with it, you know? Like I hear so many people who need what you have to say. And you know, it's so similar to my story too, but did you ever think in that situation too, real quick before we wrap up here, did you ever think when you were in those hard times that you would ever be used to go back and speak into other people's lives?
No,
Yeah, I was like,
no.
it make me cry, but it it's incredible, isn't it?
It is. It's very surreal at this point. Getting that out there and talking to people and letting them know that this is who I am, and it's not always pretty. Some of the things I've been through, it's not pretty and not pretty subjects to talk about, but they need to be talked about.
But it's real
And
life. It's
yeah,
real. And
it is.
no one is perfect. I hear so much the moms, you know, even if they're married, they're struggling in their marriages, struggling to learn how to do this, and all they see are the Instagram and Facebook perfection, which is fake, and
Yes.
they feel even more alone. So to again, like, you know, what I was mentioning to you before, like you coming out here and being raw and real, that's what every woman, every person needs. We need more of this. People who
And
aren't, even if you're
and
afraid, still do it.
yeah, and even if you don't need financial coaching, I mean, with my OLA certification, it allows me to help in all 7 areas of your life. So I do have the coaching available. But for the financial course I mentioned, I do have a promo code for your group that they can use to get 50% off. Because when you're trying to get things in the right order, you don't have a lot of cash normally. And I'm not trying to charge people an arm and a leg.
Mhm.
So it's just a little bit to cover my time. So I
Yeah.
gave you the promo code that you can give out to them,
Yes.
RPRT50, and it'll
Hmm.
get you 50% off the course.
Awesome. I think it's just absolutely incredible, and I'm going to snatch it up. So, and I hope everyone else will. And I will post all the links, all the information. But real quick, where can people contact you just right off if they want to get in touch with you to get your services or just hear what you have to say?
So I have a website, mamabearlivingllc.com, or you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Mama Bear Living.
Awesome. All right, so I will post all your information in the description and the links everywhere else that I post this video. And I could listen to you talk forever because I know you have so much more to your story. But I think just right there, there's so much that I just know it's going to inspire and encourage so many people who are in those pits right now and are wondering, is there a light at the end of this tunnel, or is this it? And I just want to say too that not only are you being an inspiration to anyone who hears your story, but in your own household, your kids are going to look back and go, wow, mom came out of it. She did all this for us. And I think at the end of the day, it's not like it's worth everything, but it just makes it so much sweeter, right?
It does. And knowing that you can affect change in someone else's life and you can help them and make a difference. And maybe they don't have to spend the 10 years making the mistakes that you did is an awesome feeling. And kudos to you for giving us a place to help get that word out, and you're interviewing some amazing women. And I'm very honored to be on that list.
You're one of them.
I'm not real prideful, so I feel very humbled and just very honored to be included. But thank you so much for having me and having my story shared.
Yes. And I want to go back and say that you're helping change people's lives, and people can do that, but it has to start with you first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. So thank you for doing that work as well, because otherwise, what's going to continue coming out of you wouldn't be possible. And that the hardest thing to do, like you said, is that self-care and looking in the mirror and going, I'm worthy, I'm good enough.
Yep. And that's where ULA's awesome is because it doesn't stop. You don't just go through the certification or just do a coaching program and it's over. It's that continual growth. You just keep growing. You just keep dreaming bigger and bigger and bigger and just keep going so that you're still thriving and striving towards the future.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much, Michele, for this. And I can't wait to see more of what you're going to be doing to help people. And I just wish you the best and everything. And you deserve it. You deserve it so much. You are worthy and good enough.
Thank
And
you.
you are using your voice to help people in ways that you weren't helped.
Yeah.
So every day by default has to be amazing. No matter what else goes on.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. All right. You have an awesome day. Thank you so much. Is there any last thing you want to say before we sign off?
Just don't stop. Whatever you're facing, whatever you're trying to get through, wherever you are in life, good, bad, or indifferent, don't stop.
All right. Nothing better to say after that. All right. Thank you again so very much. This has been another amazing installment with some powerful stories here. We have MamaBear Michele, who has talked about how she rose above, overcame her circumstances that were not the prettiest, but she has come out so much better for it and is now going back and helping people in amazing ways. So thank you again so much. All right.
Thank you.
That's all for now. You are so welcome.